Big change to stop and search powers that's been announced by the Home Secretary. He's going to be moving against violent crime, as we have seen that the softer tactics, really cutting down of stop and search in our major cities, has been linked now to heavy increase in violent crime. Now, the extension of a stop and search powers is effectively the Home Secretary's latest challenge to Theresa May, bearing in mind before she was Prime Minister, she was Home Secretary. Sajid Javid wants officers to be able to stop anyone suspected of carrying acid without a good reason. At present, police can only do so when they've got evidence that a person is about to cause an injury. He also wants police to be able to stop and search people carrying laser pointers or drones. That expands on powers that the Prime Minister had sought to curb before she became Prime Minister. Now, since his promotion in April, there's no question at all Sajid Javid has been making a play for the big job and moving to tackle issues of law and order. Well, very popular, not just with the Tory faithful, but with an awful lot of floating voters as well. And as we've seen with this massive increase in acid attacks, huge rates of increase in stabbings, shootings and other brutal attacks, many are calling for more action to be taken. But is stop and search the answer? Well, let's put this to Ken Hinds. He's a stop and search campaigner and community activist. Good morning to you, Ken.
Morning, Julia.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Now, look, I think most people on any side of the argument would agree that somebody who is looking like they're behaving in a very, very suspicious manner, looks like they might have a weapon, we want the police to go and search. But the reality for a lot of young men in particular, and young black and Asian men in particular, is that they have been over the years searched by police officers when they are simply walking along the street or driving their cars, and they feel it hasn't been for good reason. They are simply being stopped and searched because they may fit a racial profile, although it's illegal in this country for police to do that, or fit a vague identity of someone suspected of a crime. Perhaps, a black man wearing a hoodie, which of course could mean many hundreds of thousands of young men in this country. Would you be in support of the Home Secretary basically giving more power to the police over stop and search, or would you be wary of that?
Well, thankfully, this is not going to implement it. It's a public consultation that's about to be undertaken, first of all. Secondly, I believe they've got all the powers they need as it currently goes. I don't understand how they're giving them greater powers, but to say specifically around acid attack or detecting acids, and what does that really look like, and what does that mean? I would say, Julia, that most of the public is in favour of stop and search. But if you ask them more detailed question, what should they be stop and searching for, is what we need to get to. So they would probably say for knives, guns and acid attacks amounts the most serious things to be looked on. So we'll all be in favour if that was done. But also the major issue around here is whether the police are able to do this professionally.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the young people I come across said that the police are very aggressive, and in some cases they're violent, and yet they're not being held accountable, because we've seen past things that happen that's been picked up on video.
Yeah.
And people they're caught bang to right, but they get not guilty, or they don't even get any disciplinary.
Well, we've seen that far more, haven't we, in America? And I hope to think we're not in quite such a bad situation as they are. But it's undoubtedly the case. Like, I've done many phone-ins over the years, and middle-aged black men, particular, even someone who's a reverend, wearing his dog collar, being stopped, once a fortnight by the police simply for driving a perfectly nice car. The reality is, I'm a white middle-aged middle-class woman. I don't get stopped by the police. I've never been stopped by the police. I don't expect ever to be stopped by the police. And life is very different for different people. But what would you say to people? Look, when you look at the pages, certainly what we've seen in London, there's been so much focus on the crime spate we've had in London. More than 100 people now have been shot in this city or stabbed to death. Absolutely horrific statistics. And we're only in September. And when you look at they put the pictures in the newspaper, a double-page spread, invariably the people who are the victims, and often in the case the people who are the suspected perpetrators, are young black men. It is young black men who are invariably being searched by the police, but it is young black men who are most likely to be the suspects, young black men who are most likely to be the victims. Isn't it in everyone's interest, or whatever colour, whatever race, wherever you live, that we catch the right people? And in which case, we know, of course, the police are going to be targeting their stop and search at particular groups of people.
Look, Julia, I would agree with you that in the black community, we're disproportionately affected by the violence, both as victim and perpetrator. But it's not exclusively
No, absolutely not.
To our community. There was a shooting of a young Turkish man yesterday in Haringey, and so it just shows you at the end of the day that these things is not the domain of any particular community. It's or individual like black race, but of a community, and we need to step up.
Well, you say community, but it's not. I mean, it's just. I mean, look. I mean, I doubt very much it's anything to do with the colour of anyone's skin. It's often the places that people live, the socioeconomic things. I'm all for tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime, and tackling those issues. But when the police actions to deal with this, when the police basically were told, look, you've got to stop stopping and searching young black men. The reality is, young black men were more likely to be a victim of crime.
No, but they're not. But no one's telling you can't. You must stop and searching anybody. What they must stop saying, you must stop this racial profiling for the sake of saying, well, okay, it's black on black crime, so therefore we must search a black man on this, because it doesn't equate. Because all it does, and we have to be very wary about alienating the very community that's been affected by this. And so, on the one hand, you can't say, oh, let's just do it, and then forget about the consequences. Because remember, there's been two serious public disorder in 1981, the Brixton riot, and 2011, the Tottenham riots that extended beyond countrywide.
Can I just say, those riots, by the way, which all came about as a result of people protesting against the shooting of an armed man, for goodness sake, a known drug dealer. A nasty little Mark Duggan was a nasty little piece of work, and the world is a better place without him. And people went rampaging on the streets because he was shot by the police.
He never had no gun on him.
He did have a gun.
He didn't have a gun.
He did have a gun. The people who sold him the gun, are in prison right now for selling him the gun.
No, Julia, how did
a jury think that these people sold him a gun if he didn't have a gun?
Julia, let me say this much to him. He had a mobile phone in his hand when he got shot. That was definitely clear.
He was travelling in a car with a gun in a shoebox because he was on his way to shoot somebody, because he was a nasty little thug.
Yeah, he may have been all these things here, but like everything else, people can change.
For goodness sake.
Right? But you can't have summary execution.
It wasn't summary execution. It was a hard stop by the police, and they thought he was going to fire. Now, look, police might make mistakes. I've got to be honest. In that case, that I don't think there was one. But this is the thing. We need to have a situation where it is. I mean, we talk about the black community. I don't want there to be a black community. I don't want there to be a white community. A Jewish. I hate when we talk about Muslim community, Jewish community. We're all just individuals living where we live. Now, I'm lucky. I live in a nice, leafy white, sort of not white, so white middle class sort of area. And so, be honest with you, if a young black man in a hoodie walked down the street, there'd probably be a few twitches of the curtains, and people go, ooh. But the reality is that we haven't seen crime in my area until we've seen the moped thieves coming down. Suddenly, everyone wants some sort of action to be taken, and then people are angry about that. There's calls for the police to take action. The reality is, a lot of young black men and women and older black men live in communities in inner cities around the country where there is crime day to day on the streets. If the police were using their stop and search powers more widely, would they not be actually helping law-abiding people living in those neighbourhoods to feel safe?
Julia, it's not about this perception, because you've got people out there who wants to feel that they feel much happier if they'd be happier if they're seeing more police stopping more black young people on the street, regardless whether they're innocent or not. Because don't forget, the figure shows you that 8% of the time leads to no further action. So that shows to me that is not a very good, intelligent way to be led. Unlike what they do with the terrorism, which have got a better return when they get the intelligent and use the appropriate resources to tackle it, which I'm all in favour of. But you can't just continue on a fishing expedition, because we've seen the damage it has continued to do. I would also suggest to you that it could also lead to people feeling that, well, we're not part of this society, so you know what, we're gonna safeguard ourselves, and that's lead to more young people wanting to arm themselves. That's what I don't want. right? So it's a revolving thing that we've got to look at. And I'm saying cause and effect. Let's stop having this knee-jerk reaction and let's have a deeper conversation as to the consequence of giving off certain powers without any transparency or accountability.
Ken Hinds, always lovely to speak to you, sir. Stop and Search campaign and community activist. Very much appreciate that.